p.m. Dr. Varoshni Nadeshan from Johnsburg University inaugurated the ceremony. Mr. Job Sakriya, Chief, UNICEF for Chhattisgarh, delivered keynote address. Mrs. Pratibha Kadambari, Ms. Agila V. delivered felicitations. Other dignitaries on the dais were Dr. Steffi Thomas, Principal, BCM College, Reverend Father Philemon Kalatra, BCM College. Now, we are going to begin the panel discussion. I now welcome Ms. Anidamol Babu, Faculty, Department of Social Work, BCM College, to welcome the gathering.
Thank you. You are off to great places. Today is your great day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Dear delegates on the online platform, panel discussion is where major statements are made and broad-ranging debate may be conducted and where all decisions by the conference are taken. So we are about to begin the 18th Samanwaya 2021 panel section. So I would like to welcome our moderator of the panel section, Dr. Abraham Francis, the Associate Professor of Social Work and Human Services at James Cook University in Australia. He's initiated and established many international field placements and has been instrumental in establishing international partnership and research collaborations with the various universities and organizations across the world, especially South Asia. Besides, he is the reason for the association between many voluntary organizations, associations, professional bodies, and developmental projects between India and Australia. I'm so happy to welcome you, sir, to the panel section. Behalf of the Department of Social Work, BCM College, Kottayam. Welcome you, sir. We have three presenters for the panel session. Mr. A.V. George from World Vision Chennai. He will present on the theme Situation of Children in India. Ms. Pradipta Kadambari, she's from Kadambari Memorial College, Nepal. She will present on the topic Children's Right to Parental Care and Family Protecting Children from Harms. Dr. Aida D'Souza, Assistant Professor, Prasanna School of Public Health. She will talk on the theme Juvenile Justice, Amid Promises of Reforms. Welcome all presenters to the panel session. We have Mr. Sijol Joy, the Secretary of CAPS Kottayam chapter with us. Welcome, sir, to the panel session. The moderators of the next paper presentation are also here with us. My teacher and mentor of Layla College, Trivandrum, Father Sabupi Thomas, Professor from Sri Shankaracharya University Pioneer Center, Dr. Anida, HOD, Department of Social Work, Marian College, Kutikanam, Brother Joseph Chariplakal, Assistant Professor of National College, Trivandrum, Mr. Ramesh Chandran. I would like to welcome all the moderators of the paper presentation section to the panel session. A panel session is not successful without the participants. I would like to welcome all the educators, practitioners, and social work students participating in the panel section right now. Welcome you all to the panel.
Okay. So thank you so much, Anidamol Babu, for introducing me to this wonderful international conference. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. So the task for me at the moment is to coordinate this panel discussion, and we have three important colleagues with us, Dr. Pradipta Kadambari from Nepal, and Dr. A.V. George, and Dr. Aida D'Souza from Manipal. So before we begin this panel discussion, I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate the great effort taken by Dr. I and his colleagues and the students from the college. It's an excellent initiative, and we've been doing it for the last 18 years or so. 18th Samanwaya Online International Conference on and Student Meet. So I'm so happy to be joining you all today and share some of my observations. And Dr. I asked me to compare and contrast and to provide some reflections on how I look at child protection system. So I have got some 10 points that I would like to share with you. I will be very brief in my discussions with you, but we have three eminent scholars with us. So I think without much delay, I will straight away get into that particular discussion on child protection and our collaborations and how we need to move forward, especially the students who are listening. I think it's a great opportunity. Could I please ask the students to just mute yourself so that, yeah, all right, thank you. As I'm not able to see any of you, I'm just going by the slides just in front of me. So I attended the last evening session where I think Dr. Pratibha was there, and Dr. Varoshini. I listened to all of you speak about your experiences and the way you engage. So it really gave me an idea about what this conference is all about and how this collaborative effort is happening. And I think it's great. And I'm so glad to see Dr. Pratibha, and after a long time now. I had a lot of email conversations with you, but good to see you. And of course, Dr. Porgis, I have had a lot of interactions with him as well. So I take this opportunity to really congratulate the university and the college and all the students, my own colleagues and social work educators in India and other parts of the world who are joining today. So I am actually not in my office today. I'm actually traveling between two different campuses. So although COVID has restricted us our traveling, I'm actually in a different campus. So I'm not in my office. So I'm trying to catch my flight in 1 hour's time. So I said to Dr. I will be here for 1 hour. I wanted to be with you all. So, so it's a great opportunity. I want to especially thank and appreciate all our students who are really looking forward to this session and this conference, and the students have come together and you're doing it together. So I think let's take this order. We have 45 minutes, and we have Dr. Pratibha first, and then we go to Dr. A.V. George, and then Dr. Aida. So Dr. Pratibha, do you want to kickstart this conversation? And then I will kind of conclude at the end. So I will wait.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you, Professor Abram, and it's very good to.
Could I please ask the organizer to just mute others as well, please?
Okay, now I'll unmute myself. I have sent my PDF, the presentation. So I would like to know from the organizer if you are going to have it from your side, or should I share from my side? If I get screen share, I can share from my side also.
Yeah, you just go ahead while others, yeah.
No, yeah, it's here. Thank you. So what I am going to today going to talk is about children's right to parental care and their right to the family. And that is what my experiences on engaging with a project from last 4 years in promoting the right of children and protecting children within the family. And that's what I feel is very important, but still not so much talked about or so much of work that we focused for parental care rights of the children, looking at the other rights of the children. Next slide, please. So these are all my experiences. And the parental care right, how I would like to define it is the right of every child to the care from their parents and a family, the family which is the fundamental group of society, and also a very natural environment of growth and well-being for all the children. And that we can see it from the UNCRC preamble itself. Next slide. The preamble itself has put or recognized family as a fundamental group of society and good for all members, and particularly that's what we have to look at, the place where the children are considered to be more safest is the family, for the children. Should be, and that family should be assisted by state to fulfill that duty of care. The next one is recognizing that child for their fullest and harmonious development of their personality should grow up in a family environment in the atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding. The same that I would also like to bring to the notice that I feel family, the role of the family exists in a duality. One aspect we believe and we recognize it as the space happiness and well-being, but we have also seen that it has been a threat to our children also. So this is why I'm bringing this one. There is a duality, but how we can bring it to one unit, family as a unit of child protections, child development. So I have quoted there the best interest of child. I'm not going to explain it in a lot. I think it is understandable from the picture itself. Next slide. So while I'm working in parental care rights, I'm looking at the review of the international drivers of the parental care rights, and I could see the existed in the UNCRC itself, where the central is the preamble stating family as a fundamental group and best place for child development. Then I could see the 7 articles that I have prepared a framework in our project, starting with the third, the best interest of child, where the parents have, as a first duty bearer, have a right and responsibility to act for the best interest of child. And then if we see the Article 5 clearly guides us for the parental guidance and directions for the children's growth, looking at their evolving capacity. Then the name and identity, there is it's parents' duty to have that name and identity of their children. And when we look at the Article 9, it clearly says that children should not be separated from their parents against their will, or unless the situation is detrimental to the children. And that has to be determined by a very competent authorities like us. One of we are also a part of that determining process. And then likewise, that Article 10 is talking about the entering, it's on the adoption or other situation of alternative care, but at that time also children have the right to be with their meet their birth parents. And 1827 talk about the livings, the basic needs of the children. So the parental care is the right of the children and the duty of all parents. Next slide, please. And this is how I like to bring it, the 7 fundamentals of children's right to parental care from UNCRC. This is just a consideration of what I explained. Next slide. Yeah, and then I like to talk about what is then the child separation, because we have seen lots of, it's very common phenomenon in our society, sending children to boarding schools, sending children to religious places for study, sending children to relatives. And yesterday, the keynote speaker was also telling about probably these things are so common and we don't feel any adversity there. It's very common to us, and that's what is a source of problems in terms of child protection. So UN guideline of alternative care has defined child separation as that condition where all children are not living with at least one of their parents for whatever reason and under whatever kind of circumstances. That is referred as a child separation from their parents and their families. So looking at what would be the element of child separation, to define it more, bringing a more concept on the child separation, I see three elements. The first one is lost opportunity of children to healthy child development, which constitute loss of individual care and parental guidance, loss of secure foundation building, loss of family and community connection, loss of healthy emotional development. The second we could see is the institutionalization, where children are sent to a residential care and they grow in a very institutional culture. It's more ordered way of doing things. It's more regimented. Child live in the isolation from community and world outside the facility. And anything, the approach is more institutional center. It's not child center. While child are in need of individual attention, it is more focused toward the institutional interest. The one is the life under duress. That is where children have to go under excessive volume of work, degrading life condition, limitation in their freedom of movement, risk of abuse, exploitation, and the risk of traffic and also trafficking. Next slide. Next slide, please. And it's just explanations of children's experience, of the infant's experience of the care. The first few months of experiences are very important for child development. We could see the image of the brain image of two child. One is institutional child and another is child who is raised in the family. The brain development, the red portion shows the developed brain and other is not developed. And this is I am bringing it to have that attention of all of us to understand the secure base that a child develops from its early life experience. When they feel the need, they cry, and when their needs are met, then they relax. So this happens thousands of times after the birth in infancy. And that's where when their needs are met, the children build the trust, sense of trust. And that's where their base of foundation, or basic foundations built. And so that on that, they can explore the world and learn. And that is where if the children do not get this kind of care, then they could never develop the sense of trust or secure base. Next slide. So that's why when they couldn't build the secure attachment, secure base, it has a lifelong effect. And that we could see from our studies, and they have shown that children without a parental care are not being able to form a loving attachments, and that has a lifelong implication in building intimate relationship. And if we look at the attachment theory of Bowlby and then Mary Ainsworth's study, that clearly shows that the children who do not get or who do not develop a healthy attachment lacks self-esteem, confidence, and ability to form relationship. Next slide. These are furthermore evidences of harm. There's a study from Minnesota University, which happened. It's a huge study with 180 participants, and they followed the participant from 3 months of their birth to 34 years. And that shows a very strong relationship between the child's attachment type and later life individual characteristics, where those who do not develop a healthy attachment, they faces the same, like a problem in self-management, social achievement, social relationship, leading to their intimate relationship. And another one, when child grow in an environment of constant fear and unpredictable behavior of caregivers, child forms disorganized attachment, and these children were found to develop a psychopathological behavior in their adolescent and in their adulthood. Next slide. Another very important harm is the exposure of children to violence. You could see the infographic that we prepared from this project. There we could see that the children who are institutionalized, they have found to develop, they are more prone to involved in prostitution, 10 times more likely to be involved in prostitution, 40 times more likely to have criminal record, and 500 times more likely to commit suicide. That shows a very, very vulnerable state of emotional development. And this study also shows that 26% of young children with disability actually died in institutions. Because institution lacks environment of attachment, adequate stimulation, which are needed to develop children's intellectual capacity, social skills. And emotional deprivation under these conditions can lead to a multitude of problems. When children are living away from family, especially in a group or in streets, they are exposed to different kinds of violence. Next slide. We could see the data from WHO because the WHO has a series of data, evidences of the children's early exposure to abuse, exploitation, separations, separation trauma. They are more likely to be involved in smoking, misuse, alcohol, depressions, and then exposure to violence at early age also affect brain development. That results into low education and vocational learning. And another one I quoted is the children with disabilities who are the most vulnerable one in institutions. Next slide. Yeah, so these are the list of others harms of brain development, negative effect on cognitive development, highly exposure to violence and children builds on trauma, fear, children's growth, and lack of warmth and love and separation trauma lead to the use of drugs, alcohol as external stimulating substance for the people in their life, and it could have a lifelong effect. Next slide. So when we look at the global phenomena, child separation is happening everywhere, and we could see that in Asia, it is 1.13 million children who are living in institution, and this data doesn't include the other form of separation that is still not studied and not bring together as children child separations. So we only have this data of children institution, and which shows that Asia has the highest number of children living in institution. Next slide. So that's why my emphasis is usually we think that when children are sent to a boarding school or childcare home by choice or by chance, we feel that there is a gain, but actually we could see that the actual loss is more than the gain, and it's straight to children's well-being. Next slide. So conclusion is like I feel we need to work with the family to protect children, because since family is a very important and must place for child to develop. If we work with the family, we could solve the child protections issue. And that's why we support, aware, and educate family. We think that family is a demographic problem, and it's not a strategy. It's a problem, it's a strategy for other people. But I also think that child planning is also a social worker's area of interventions, because child's protection issue later in a family comes with the planning of children also. The number of, the more the children, if the economic condition is less, that's what leads to the separation of children from the parents. And we also have to understand and build our knowledge on alternative care of children, which focuses on family-based care rather than institutionalization. And we are, for social worker, we are very, I feel that we are very good, and we are in advantage position because we know about the ecological system approach, we know about the micro, meso, and macro labels interventions. That's why I think if we put our efforts in making a family strong, we will also build a child stronger.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all. I hope I finish on time. Ramsa.
Thank you, Dr. Pratibha Kadamburi. That was an excellent presentation in terms of summarizing it from a very social work perspective. You have linked it with literature, linked it with the evidence, and there is also some research-informed discussion. So I thought you have covered it all, not just from your own experience, but I think you related with the evidences and literature support. Fabulous presentation. You simply said something about a life-going effect on children's life, and especially from an Australian context, we call it as accumulative harm. Now, that's an Australian term. From an international child protection literature, you may not see that, but very often in Australian context, this particular explanation that you added through your discussion could be titled as accumulative harm because of so many things. And that's what I would be talking about later in my presentation. But this particular article would be very important as we continue to discuss on this. It's called a review of cumulative harm, a comparison of international child protection practice. It is easily available from an international journal called Children Australia. So a good way to look at, as students are trying to look at more literature and evidences, this would be something that probably you can look at. So thank you so much for sharing that idea here. And when you also mentioned about attachment theory, so it's very good to see how those theories actually come into play. It's not just about the children's right, but as practitioners, as scholars, how we bring in those theory in our discussion. So great work. Thank you so much. I'm just mindful of the time. So great work, and just mindful of the time. So we move on to Dr. A.V. George from World Vision. He's going to talk to us about the status of children in India. So yeah, I think we have 10 to 12 minutes, and yeah, welcome, Dr. A.V. George.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham Francis. Am I audible? Can you confirm, please?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. At the very outset, let me thank BCM College Management, especially Dr. Aiporgi sir, for having given this opportunity to share on the child protection systems in India over the decade, our achievements or progress in this area. When it comes to World Vision and BCM College, we have a very close association. Sometime back when I was in Kottayam, when I was part of the Kottayam World Vision office, we had the opportunity to work together even in the area of child protection. And I got the opportunity also to be part of different versions of Samanwaya. Physically, those days when we used to have huge gatherings students and faculties coming across from across the country, from different universities. Those are the memories I have, and they also cherish the functions BCM colleges.
George sir, your voice is breaking.
It seems there is some audio issue here. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think the audio of
Yeah.
George sir is breaking.
Yeah, we can't hear. So
He lost
how do you
the,
communicate? So do we stop here and come back? What do you think?
let us wait for another half minute and we
Okay.
can call the other person otherwise. I'm just trying to call him.
Yeah.
He's back, I think.
I'm sorry, my connectivity has lost. Hope I'm audible now.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you now.
Okay,
Please go
now
ahead.
I'm connecting from another device. So I have my own limitations. Thank you for sharing the screen. Let me go to the topic for want of time. Next slide, please. Can you put it in the full screen mode? Can you put this? Yes, thank you. This is a slide where we can see a quick statistics. The situation in the country for the last decade and little more than 10 years. Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India estimated in 2007, 2 out of every 3 children were physically abused. 26.5 percentage of school going children reported facing corporal punishment. 53.22% children reported having faced one or more forms of sexual abuse. ILO estimates 15% of India's estimated 2.3 million commercial sex workers are children. 43% of women in India are married before they reach the age of. NFH data shows about 11.8% children are engaged in work. And 2011 census says 49.84 lakh children are child labor. And UNICEF estimates that 11 million street children in India in 1994. Next slide. If you look at the Indian systems combating child labor and ensuring child protection, we can see the systems are well placed, and we have a very strong formal mechanism to combat the child to ensure child protection for all children in this nation. We have a national commission for the protection of child rights, and it is also a state commission, integrated child protection scheme, ICPS, juvenile justice system, judiciary, public health department, allied systems, and also the police. Most of the cases are directly reported through the system of police, where they make the law and order along with this. Next slide, please. And now let me put a little background of World Vision. World Vision in India, we are working in more than 130 districts across this nation with our own district level projects called area development programs, and also special projects which are funded and supported by the corporates and different bilateral organizations. So in all these areas, we attempt to address the child protection in three significant domains. So when I talk from the perspective of the practical efforts of World Vision, ensuring child protection, we call it as a technical program 3, which is one of the core sectors of World Vision to ensure child protection. So this child protection is ensured at the family, schools, and community levels. Next slide. At the family level, you can see, and my presentation will go with the presentation previously we had. We can see in family, the sexual abuse part, the neglect, the alcoholism, domestic violence, and physical abuse. Next slide. In family, if we make sure a conducive environment for children to grow and nurture and come out with a full stature, a family, or the role of a family in the life of a child is very, very important and crucial. But the reality is different. Every second, a child is reported facing emotional abuse. In 83% of the cases, parents were the abusers. Incest in Delhi and UP, first 10 months of 2014. I'm talking about last one decade. 1,704 cases of rape among 2015 are incestuous rape. 43 by father, very alarming. 36 by own uncle, 27 by brother, 23 by stepfather. 7,000 children, including infants, are raped in India every year. This is a statistics from UNICEF. 1,85,000 and 18 lakhs 5,095 children work as domestic workers. Next slide, please. When it comes to the schools, the situation in the school are also not very conducive for children. Not only to complete their academic studies, but also as the school environment. The school is in most of the cases, you can see gender-based violence. In India, 35% of the teens willingly access phone nudity online, and only 14% parents are aware of this. And this percentage may be more when it comes to slums, when it comes to places where children are not closely monitored by the school authorities. Unsafe schools, unsafe means of transportation, bullying is another major area, and corporal punishment. 11.9 million out of school children in the age of 6 to 13 years in India. World Health Organization, in its first ever global status report on road safety, bringing out the mortality rate of children in India is 19 per 1 lakh. These are alarming statistics compared to any country when we compare. Next slide, please. when it comes to the communities, World Vision closely work with the families and communities. Of course, we also work in school systems, but school education system closely working when compared to the families and communities. The community work of World Vision is more in the country. So you can see if the communities are empowered properly, and if the community can take care of children, we can expect each community bring out a successful story in terms of child protection. So if you look at the bottom statistics in 2013, Government of India reported 350,000 children went missing. About 200 girls and women enter prostitution daily, which 20% are below 15 years of age. In 2011, Indian census found that nearly one third, 32% of urban households, accounting for around 120 million people, live in a single room. So the danger of children living along with the parents and other adults in a single room, they often leading children to expose to adult sex behavior. So this will prompt for the delicate line of child protection. Next slide, please. So there are 3 into 3 essential for child protection, which we World Vision practically do in the earlier I mentioned about more than 130 districts. We do practically in all our projects across the country, and even I can say it is also being mandated by all countries across the globe wherever World Vision is working. So the 3 actors are strengthening the families, empowering children, and also catalyzing the unique and essential contribution of the faith organizations, churches, uh, temple trust and agencies, and also the Islamic faith groups and other faith groups like Sikh and Parsi, etc. So the 3 enablers are enabling and increasing local level collaboration between formal and informal actors. So international NGOs and academia can play a very vital role as an enabler, integrating focused child protection efforts with other sectoral interventions. So this can even be thought at the state level and district level planning, along with the Niti Aayog interventions, leveraging out long-term presence in communities for national, regional, and global advocacy and policy influence. Next slide, please. So this is the formal child protection system we World Vision promote. You can see there the actors. You can see the system, the family, child, community, and state. Includes 7 elements and 5 types of actors. Next slide. The 7 elements of child protection. Let me just read out the bullet points: laws, policies, standards, and regulations, services and service delivery mechanisms, capacities to perform child protection services, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration mechanisms, accountability mechanisms, circle of care, which includes attitudes, values, etc., children's resilience and life skills and participation. Next slide.
You got 1 more minute. Thank you.
5 types of actors we have explained earlier in that infographic. Next slide. The country is offering a legal framework and the legal framework is to make sure child protection for all children in the country. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, this one. Over last decade, there are important schemes for the well-being of children in this country, and out of which you can see, I have marked with the different colors: Integrated Child Protection Scheme, ICPS, Child Line Services. To mention importantly, even BCM College is the nodal agency for Child Line Services in Kottayam, which I was closely associating with, and the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. So we have important schemes in this nation to ensure child protection. So child protection is the of and many players. Next slide, please. We have also separated days to make sure children's well-being. We have Anti-Child Labor Day on 30th April, World Day Against Child Labor on 12th June, International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking on 26th June, 11th October we celebrate International Day of Girl Child, 11th November World Day for Prevention of Abuse and Violence Against Children, 14th November Children's Day in India, 20th November International Children's Day, 25th November International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Children. Why I put this slide is formal efforts, observance, and practically at the community level, family level, interventions are all in full swing. But even
I'm just sorry to interrupt.
with all these efforts, we need to be mindful of our children. Every child is important. Every child has to grow to the full stature to ensure a child protection mechanism around every child is the responsibility of the sector, formal sector, or academy. So let us take that decision today that every effort, like this Samanwaya, we offer a protective system to children in India. Next slide, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Thank you so much. Dr. Aipuvarghese, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Actually, all
Okay.
that's right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dr. A.V. George. I think you really presented a lot of information, rich information. I think you also provided a social context in which these things are happening. And I think the visual presentation of the child protection system in India that you presented, that was quite engaging and interesting. And the data is quite compelling and quite alarming, And but you also highlighted about the kind of initiative that you have already started in India and the kind of collaborative work that you're already engaged in with different colleges and organizations. That's also really great to hear. So thanks for your contribution, and thank you so much for your the paper as well. Let's now move on to Dr. Aida D'Souza, great friend of mine. We have worked together in Manipal some time back. Great to see you, Dr. Aida. And So you're going to talk to us about the juvenile justice system and in relation to child protection. So you got around the 12 minutes. So it's very difficult to manage the online conversations because we don't even get to see each other, so just keep a time, so 12 minutes, and then we could expand our discussions further. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Ida.
Good morning, Dr. Abraham Francis. Nice to listen to you, see you online. Great. Sir, will you allow me to share my screen, please? Yes. Yes. I want to share my screen. Please, will you permit me to screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Respected moderator, Dr. Abraham, and the great organizer, Dr. Ipe Wagis, the head of Social Work College, BCM, and all the staff and students, and my co-panelists, and all the who are online and offline, who are watching and listening to our talk. We have chosen a very good topic, and we have two speakers who have very beautifully put foundation to carry on my talk. The title is Decadal Challenges to Child Protection. Now, decadal means it is last 10 years we can take it, and also I would like to take it next 10 years, because 2030 we are going to achieve our SDG goals. That is by the direction is to by 2030. That means we have spent many years. Recently, in 2019, UNICEF celebrated 30 years of UNCRC 89, the declaration, and they were very glad. And our Henrietta, Executive Director of UNICEF, she has written an open letter to children saying every child, every right, and she mentioned about 8 points, very important points, which is bothering about the children in global level. Now, coming to the point of protection, we know that UNCRC has given 4 rights. One is right to participation, right to protection, right to development, and right to survival. And right to protection, I'm not going to talk about other 3 rights. I'm going to talk about the protection right. Now, when you say protection, it is very important because it speaks about violence. It speaks about protection from negligence, neglect. It talks about protection from exploitation and neglect. So these 4 things, to address these issues, we have a large setup of system. Already Dr. George and Dr. Madam also spoke about how important it is. Today I'm going to speak about, especially focusing on the juvenile justice system, how it is practiced and what is the role of our children. That is very important for us, our students, our MSW students, how they have to prepare. That is very important for us to see that. Next slide. Yes. I just want to share some cases, what happened in last 15 days in and around Mangalore and other places. And you all know there are many cases happening in India and around the globe. I just want to mention one case. You can see on the screen, there's a 12-year child he found killed last week, then alleged to be hit by 17 years boy because there's a conflict of PUBG games. So when we spoke to the child, he said, is heat of passion, that word usually used in criminal justice. So in the heat of passion, I got angry because there was an argument regarding the play, and I hit the stone and he collapsed. And then later I found his dead. Then I went sat at home. This is what happened. And we also seen recently, 3 months ago, there's one child, 16 years. He attempted murder on a working on duty police officer. And we have already, even sir has mentioned about, Dr. George has given the data. There are many incest sexual offenses. We find many brothers and sisters. One sister of 14 years got pregnant, and then she had to have cesarean surgery, and then she delivered, and the child is surrendered to the institutions taking for the child, for the institute given to adoption. Now, next slide. So I'm not going to all the cases because we know there are many cases about different issues. Now, if a child if involved in offense, or if a child is in abused, or if a child in domestic servant or child trafficking, or any child is found, what happens? The child will go through all these processes. You can see on the board, you can see there are so many things, about 15 things the child has to go through. Now, who are these people? You can see that any child who commit an offense, the child first has to go to the case. Somebody will complain and go to the police station. And police station, we have somebody, child welfare police officer. Why I would like to tell you all these people is because I've written social workers at the end. You can see on the slide, there's a social worker. So what is the social worker's role and what the social worker has to do with all the other people? It's very important to know how we need to deal with these people and how we need to separate our role as a social worker. And very important because in JJ Act 2015 and in the JJ Act from 1960 onwards, we find the important component of a social worker, statutory mentioned about social worker in the Act. So when we have these, the police, so the title of the police is Child Welfare Police Officer, okay, CWPC. Now, the child title carries a very important role because we know that they are trained the police officer, they have to deal with the children with a very child-friendly manner. Now, what is happening that I'm not going to deal with that because there are different versions about that. I have found police who are very arrogant, who are very exploitative, or very violent. I also see police who are very nice. Now, my concern is to see how do we differentiate the social worker role and how do we train these police officers, or how do we convince them or work with them as a team to reach that child protection system. Now, we have judicial magistrate. Now, we know that we have the children who are compliant with law, the child will go to next the JJB, Juvenile Justice Board. And Justice Board, there are three people. One is the magistrate who has minimum 3 years experience, because the law is such a beautiful law. We have JJ Act. It says we want the judge with the experience. And then there are two other members who are, it is said that the social work members. Okay. So what are their roles? How is it different? I have found judges who are very friendly with the children, who go out of their way, work with the children. I have also seen the judges who do not read the JJ Act, who do not know about the legislation, who do not know what to do there. Because you know, those who are working in the child protection, they know there are children in the OH for years together, even for a simple offenses, petty offenses, which is supposed to be below 3 years punishment in ICPS, in IPC and CRPC, but nobody knows about there is something called petty offenses. It will stay there. Now I'm asking, if the social worker know about this act, if social worker knows something, then he can or she can educate or guide the judge, and they can do better work, because all the three members have equal rights in the JJ system. And then we have SGPU, is a police again. We have DCPU. They are basically with the Women and Child Development Department officials. They are there, and there are many social workers work in the department. And we have clinical psychologists. If the child has done any serious offenses, and we want to assess the understanding of the child about the act, about the consequences and the capacity of the mental, then we have to send the child to clinical psychologists to assess the mental capacity of the child. And there are many people who are trained social worker, and then they do their MPhil and they get the position, or the child psychologist or psychiatric doctor, they do these things. So what is the difference between social workers and their role? How they can work together? Then we have lawyers. Lawyers, we have in DCPU, we have a legal protection officer under JJ Act. And his role is to educate the people about the law and to keep the team together. And there also we have lawyers in JJB board. We also have lawyers in CWC, the Child Welfare Committee. Now, the JJ Act says the members can be social work members, okay? And the JJ Act says you have to work for 7 years experience in the child protection. Then another clause says, JJ Act, it is those who are trained in law, trained in clinical psychology, trained in sociology and social work. And social work is word now taken out, and all the three words are there. You can understand the difference between sociologist, a fresh lawyer, and clinical psychology. Of course, they are the professionals, but these two people, and also with the social workers. So if the law says the sociology members can become the member, law member can become the member, then how do we differentiate ourselves? If we do not differentiate ourselves, then all become the same. So you can see that there's a labor department, social welfare department, district legal service authorities, education department, child protection commission, state level, national level, then ICPS director. Now, just now sir mentioned that the system which protects the child is an IS officer. She's an IS officer state level, and she always asks, he or she asks for the reports of monitoring report for all the social workers, give me the report in every month, every 3 months. So how to work with them. Then we have JJ committee at the High Court who monitors the whole process of juvenile justice system at the court level and at the JJB level. Then of course we have social workers everywhere. We are going to the next slide, please. So now we focus on juvenile, the social work members. Now what is their role? How the JJ Act sees social workers' role? If you see all these areas, it is mentioned in the JJ Act, all these positions are given to, especially for social workers. It says, the Act says, the probation officers, the social workers in police station, there are 2 positions, but many police stations are not appointed social workers. Some NGOs do the work, or DCPU sends social worker to the police stations. Then there are DCPU institutions, there are institutional protection officer in DCPU. Okay, and their role is to monitor the institutions, the childcare institutions, observation homes, or special protection, safety homes, and also special home. So they have to monitor that. There are non-institutional protection officers who need to monitor the houses, the parents, in case if the child is committed offense and if the child is in the community, the non-institutional social worker can go to the community and can do the awareness or to with the parents. And we have counselors in different positions. In DCPU, we have in OH, special home, we have counselors in institutional care, we have counselors in OH. So there are many positions, counselors also for the social workers. Then there are, as I discussed with you, JJB judicial members are there. In every JJB, there are 2 social workers. But I also told you that social workers also can be sociology, legal, and clinical psychologists. But it says social workers help working 7 years, but you need to complete 35 years of experience, 35 years of age to become a member of Juvenile Justice Board. And CWC, there are 5 members. Even there is 1 lawyer, but 4, there is scope for social workers to deal with the children. Then we have fit person who can monitor the children, or who is a dignified citizen, can monitor a child if the child requires a monitoring. Then we have social worker in the fit institution, we have child line coordinator, we have child line counselor, we have child line field workers, then we have members for child protection committees, and we also have inspection committees. In there you can become the member, and we also can be counselor or members in child care institutions. All this scope is given in JJ Act for the social workers. So I'm calling all the students and those who are participants who are seeing and watching this, see how you can be part of this program and how you can contribute better to protect the children. Next slide, please. So now you must be wondering, why these so many social workers in the JJ Act? Now it is very important.
Ma'am, just be mindful of the time. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. So what in 1899, you must have heard about, we speak about SHM, Settlement House Movement, we speak about CSO, we speak about friendly social workers, friendly visitors. All this movement started in the 1870s and 80s. And at that time, one of the focus point is about the children. And these people, especially the Jane Addams and then Julia Clifford Lathrop and Lucy Farr, these social workers, we also call them progressive workers of US or Chicago. These are from the Hull House of New York. First thought of children are exploited in workhouse, children are exploited in arm house, children are exploited in the court. Because in the prison, all these children, because this is also period of urbanization and period of migration, and most of the children are on the street and begging or stealing some like food or something, and they are treated just like in the elder prison and treated very badly. There are two words they are using. One is called out of sight and hears, because children are, if they're taken to the adult court, there they are misused for sexual offenses, for many other things. The situation was so bad. Before, what they have done, they said that there should be a separate code for the children. Therefore, they have established with the great struggle. They have done a lot of work for 10 years, and at the last, they got the permission to start an independent children code in 1899 in Chicago First Court. You may wonder why it is not Britain. You must be knowing that whatever starts in Britain and then spreads all over, because colonized period that time. So in Britain, they started this work, but not separate juvenile code. But in US, with the Hull House, they started the separate juvenile code, and then that is spread. Like in 25 years, whole US, and then also Britain, and then the world. It spread the code. Even in India, 1860 IPC, we mentioned about children need to be treated separately. Even in 1860 IPC, section 82 mentions about this. And then you can find that the friendly visitors are appointed as probationary officers. And then in India, first children's court is 1921, 22, 24, Bengal court, and we have Calcutta court, these courts. Then the Children Act 1948, 60, Juvenile Justice Act 86, 2000, and the present Act 2015. Next slide, please. So what we find is in 18, next, please enter that, yes. Yes. What is the role of social work, statutory role? The important role is rescue. Now this is the important, what we have to do. Our role is to rescue children and counsel the children. Now, who are the children? When we say protection, children comes from victims of physical abuse, rape, grief, abandonment, assault, child labor, residing institutions. We recently, last week, we rescued about 5 children who are brutally violated in institutional care, and we rescued them with the operation, and we did that. So such children, we need to rescue them. We need to have a counseling them. Do we have needed skills, knowledge, attitude? Then we have to counsel the children with the CCL, the children conflict with law. We have children, like I told you about the 12 years, children was killed by 17 years. Now, if you assess it is an aggression or it's difficult to control the emotion. So adolescents are in this situation. So are we trained to understand what is aggression, how to go about? There are gang offenses. Do we know how to address the issues of gang offenses or team or influenced by peer influence? Or do we know how to address the drug abuse children or sexual deviance? There are many cases which are sexual offenses are coming up. What is it about? Whether it is a deviant, sexual deviant behavior, or is it a friendly gesture with the girlfriend or boyfriend? What is it? Are we able to understand this? What is the problem with the poverty, the stealing or robbery or addiction to online games? So how are we preparing ourselves to work as a JJB member or as a counselor or as a rescue child protection officers? How are we working? How are we preparing ourselves is my question. And also there are like writing a SIR report is very important for the children in conflict with law and children in need of care and protection. What is this SIR report is about? It's a very important component which helps the judges, the JJB or CWC to come to a conclusion, to give a judgment. So it talks about the education background, the family background, and the bonding of the parents, circumstances which led to these incidents, neighborhoods, the peer pressures, experience of addiction, disorders, or abuse. These things we have to study, and we have to write a SIR report, and we have to produce a report and submit that report, and then it helps them to create a good outcome or orders for them. So this is the primary task of a social worker, and there's a difference between other stakeholders I showed you and about us. Many people do not know about these areas, but we have to train ourselves prepare ourselves, we have to train them, convince them, because there is so many conflict going on between the social workers and other members. Because they don't, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Yes. So next one, yes, next.
Just
Yes, this is the last two slides.
Yeah.
If you find the social workers, what we find is there are many members working in this child protection system. I consider them into two type of social workers. One is they come for the job. Other people who come for committed social workers. They're committed. They want to work with the child protection. About them, I segregate them again three type of social workers: skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled. Now, my problem is all these people, they're committed, therefore they think they are doing a great job in the child protection. The minute we say that I'm doing a great job as a JGB member, I'm doing a great job as a counselor, but if you really go deeper and understand, they do not know the subject matter as such. So thinking that I know everything and doing it is, I do not know what to say about that. We have to think as an educator, as a colleges, we need to think about that. The skilled is very, very, very small percentage of people, but most of them do not understand these dynamics in protection and not train ourselves. Therefore, we have problems. Next slide, please. You can just. Now, this I told you about what things we should know. We should know how to write a SI report. We need to know about what is a diagnosis of root problems like the parenting styles, the peer pressures, child abuse, addiction. What are these? How to go to root causes of this problem? How to understand that? What are the interventions? The next is what is CBT, DBT, family counseling? How to do this? How to have a right intervention for this problem? And teamwork with other professions, how to work with police, judiciary, labor department, health department, school department, and what the knowledge about JJ Act, POCSO, RTE, Child Labor Prohibition Regulation Act. All these things, if we know, we can be a better social worker. Without this knowledge, I tell you that you will not make a better reformation. And 120 years ago, the social workers who dreamt about this welfare system is not going to achieve, because nobody is bothered about reformation, reintegration, and treatment. They're bothered about closing the cases, finishing the cases, and then
I think I need to intervene now. Sorry. So we just need to keep the time. I only have 10 minutes. I need to go.
Yes.
Sorry.
So with this is my last. So I request all the social workers, please advocate with the state, central government to fill in positions, pension, JJ positions, social positions, to consider child protection a full-fledged specialization, to promote research, evidence-based practice, and to provide adequate opportunities for field work for the students, so that they train themselves and they do a very good job. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for taking extra time, because yes, Dr. Abraham Francis, I know you are laughing, you're smiling there. Yes.
All right. Thank you. I know you're so wonderful. I know you have a lot to share, a lot to contribute. And I'm so sorry that I had to kind of intervene in between. So my apologies. Just mindful of the timing, because Dr. Iporgis had told me you got a session only for 45 minutes. And now it's 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I have not done a good job. My apologies, Dr. Iporgis. So I just need to ask Dr. Iporgis, how much time do I have now? So we can go ahead. Dr. Iporgis, are you there?
Sir, hello, sir. I think
yeah. So I know it's.
Please take maybe few minutes and wind up, sir. Just a few minutes.
All right. Because I do have a presentation, and so I'm not going to go ahead with that. But we have had some wonderful discussions around child's safety, well-being. So 3 eminent speakers, and I think this conversation should have been for more time. So we only had a very limited time. So may I please suggest the speakers to actually contribute this as a writing. So maybe Dr. Iporgis, we could actually publish this as a book, because there is so much of information. The information provided by Dr. A.V. George, looking at the social context, and that could be a chapter Dr. Ida's presentation could be a chapter, and Dr. Pradeepa's, So I think there's so much there that we can learn and share. So maybe conceptualizing this as a book, because then there will be a lot of information that we can share. This particular session has helped people to think differently, has provided some taste in terms of what it would look like, and I think it's a beginning. So I think that there's a lot that we can learn from one another. Now, Dr. Ibu has asked me to just talk about the Australian perspectives. I have some information to share with you, but I'm mindful of the time. So I will quickly say that the 10 key points that I want to share, but I'm only going to be spending a couple of moments here because the time limit. The first one that I want to talk about was the philosophical notion of Australian national framework, which says our children must be able to grow up nourished and supported in loving and caring environments. So that's the philosophical notion of the country, right? And in Australia, the child protection is the responsibility of the state and territory governments. The state or territory-based child protection departments are responsible for child protection services that provide support to vulnerable children who are confirmed or suspected or being abused, neglected, or harmed, or whose parents and carers are unable to provide adequate care for protection. Again, this is taken from HW 2013. And number of scholars have compared the Australian child protection system with the North American countries, claiming that a forensic assessment-driven child protection approach is taken rather than the family empowerment focus approach found in Scandinavian countries. And I think that's what even most of our speakers were talking about. So what is important here? The significant agenda that is set on the framework is the country's pledge to move from seeing protecting children merely as a response to abuse and neglect to one of promoting the safety and well-being of children and developing a public health model to those families needing additional support as part of the early intervention. Now, this national framework also acknowledged a grim scenario. So it goes on talking about the research that is happening in that area. So for me, the first point, when I try to compare and contrast, the thing is about the focus, the shift from the focus of merely protecting to coming up with a very comprehensive approach. That's number one. Number two is about inquiries as to what is happening. For example, Dr. Ida mentioned about a number of issues that are happening in Bangalore and other parts of the country. So what is happening? So are there any inquiries? So here in Australian context, from 1997 onwards, Australia has had 42 major inquiries into child protection system failures, tragedies, and scandals with inquiry-led reform to improve the system. So there have been inquiries. So maybe that's the second point, to look at what are the inquiries, what are the systems. If things are not working well, why? Is there an inquiry there? So that's number two. Number three, about a national framework. And I think Dr. Varghese, I think A.V. George talked about a national framework. The fourth one is the philosophical notion. Fifth one is about the quantitative and qualitative research and review of policies. How much research is happening in that area? What is our quantitative research? What is the qualitative research that is available there? And what is our social workers' role? Dr. Ida actually mentioned about the unique and very specific role of social workers in this context. But has there been research? Has there been some evidence that actually came up from our collective response to inquiring about this? So maybe we need to find spaces where qualitative research outcomes could be incorporated into policy formulation. That's my fifth point. The sixth point is about culturally appropriate services. Do we have programs and services? And I'm sure there are, but I'm only just trying to compare and contrast here. And then the second one is about the funding. How much of funding is made available to support child protection activities? Who is actually working in this sector? Is it the government sector? Is it the non-government sector? Is the faith-based organizations? Who is actually putting in funding there. So funding is an important issue. So for example, in Australian context, I just came across the latest announcement about how much of funding has been made available to child protection. So that's very huge here. So that's important because the work needs to be done and we need to employ staff, and therefore funding is an important idea. The seventh point is the professional training and development. In Australian context, there is so much of a training and professional development that happens in that sector. And so maybe looking at from my colleagues and teachers and professors in social work education in India, whether there is a unified pedagogical approach that we have adopted or we could develop in terms of training and development. I'm sure there are things happening. I'm only just trying to mention this as a point for reflection. So I'm not saying that things are not happening. Yes, of course, whether there's a way we could collaboratively work towards, in responding to some of those things. The next one, the point number 9 is resources and publications. So how much of this information is made available in local languages to people to access? Is there a role that social workers can play there to share this information? Resource development. Now, if you can just Google and look at the child protection in Australia, just Google and you'll find a number of documents and articles and web links. For example, assessment orders, care agreements, child sexual abuse, things you need to know, support service, information for parents and pregnant women, women child safety officers visit your home. There are a lot of information that are made available. And so that way, the community becomes quite aware of the things that are happening. So the last point was about the service provisions. There is a scientific approach to interventions. And I think, these are some of the key ideas that I wanted to share. I could go on talking about this, but I just wanted to acknowledge the contributions made by one of my students, Abul Khan, who did a research study on child protection system in Australia. And so his approach to that particular thesis was about the empowering model, family empowerment approach. And again, that is in line with some of the points contributed by our previous speakers. So I just wanted to acknowledge his work and also my colleagues who have been doing some similar work in this area. So, based on what we have heard so far, I would like to pose maybe 5 to 6 questions to all the students and colleagues who have been listening to me, to revisit this idea of child protection and what can we do with the information that we have heard so far. So what is my role here? What are some of the things that we could do? What's the long-term impact on children's behavior? Or what's the long-term impact on children's lives? Maybe that could be a study that could be undertaken. Gender-based violence and how it impacts child protection. Maybe that's another point. I'm only drawing from the previous speakers. So gender-based violence was discussed by Dr. A.V. I think George. Then out of school children, what can I do as a student? What can I do as a researcher? And what impact can I make in this space? Criminal Justice Social Work is a book that I've co-written with one of my colleagues, Dr. David Mark Chung, where we have been talking about the importance of social work professionals engaging in this particular area of work. And I think Ada did talk about that, how social workers would work. And what would be our role moving forward in contributing to the SDG goals? So the main question is, what can we do as social workers in Indian context? And what can we learn from different countries where these things are happening? So I think there is a lot of things that we can learn and share a lot of information, but I open up this particular panel discussion as an area. I think we have come together now, we have talked about it, we have discussed a few ideas. I think it's taking a further step forward and trying to put all these points together so that our students, our scholars will have research-based, evidence-based practice frameworks and manuals that they could actually use in their professional work. And it could be a collaborative work with practitioners, academics, students, research scholars. So I think, Dr. Iporgis, you have really created a platform for people to come together, to begin to explore, to move forward, and to work together to create a better future for all of us. And I think as a social worker, we do have our role to play. I'm just mindful of the time. So sorry, I stop here because I could go on talking about this, but I just wanted to appreciate and congratulate the organizers, the students, and everyone who have done an amazing job. My panelists, Dr. Pratibha, Dr. George, and Dr. Ida, you made this conversation very interesting, very engaging, very powerful discussions. And I'm sure you would have really, would have loved to have more time, but I'm so sorry. I was only given 45 minutes, but we have taken double than that. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to have this company with you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Book. We will publish all these as a book, sir.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I welcome Mr. Sajo Joy, Secretary, CAPS Kottayam Chapter, to deliver the word of thanks.
Okay, respected moderator, Professor Abraham Francis, James Cook University, Australia, and panel members, Mr. A.B. George, World Vision, Chennai, Pratibha Kadambari, and Dr. Ida D. D'Souza. All the presentations were very good and useful sections. These were very useful in those who work in the field of children. The rights of the children have been debated in India for years. There have been changes in this area compared to the past, but our expectations do not come. I hope that constant discussion and work will change for the better. I go into my duties as there is time limit. First, I would like to express our sincere gratitude, our moderator, respected Professor Abraham Francis. I would like to convey our sincere gratitude on behalf of CAPS, Professional Social Workers Kerala, and Samanwaya BCM College. I express thank you, sir. Next, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to all three panel panel members. We know that all the panel members are equally respected and equally informative sessions were given. And first, I would like to thank Pratibha Kadambari, who expressed his idea about the children's rights to parental care and family, protecting children from harms. I would like to sincere gratitude to Pratibha Kadambari and Mr. A.B. George, World Division, Chennai. I would like to thank A.B. George and Ida D. D'Souza, Assistant Professor, Department, Manipal University, who I shared about juvenile justice and unmet promise of reforms. We know that this subject we cannot conclude within 1 hour. It is very vast subject, and we will take some fruitful mind from these sections. And I would like to thank the arrangement. I would like to thank Dr. Iporgis and the BCM team for this valuable section, for the informative section. Thank you all the participants from inside India and outside India. And I would like to share our gratitude from Professional Social Workers Kerala. Thank you everyone for this section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Before going to the respected rooms, I request everyone to fill the form that is shared in the chat box for the attendance. Now we are about to begin the second day paper presentations. The session will be conducted in 2 different breakout rooms parallelly. If you're using mobile phones, the option for breakout room will be displayed on the top right side of the Zoom call. In laptops, the breakout rooms will be displayed on the bottom part of the Zoom call. I repeat, if you're using mobile phones, the option for breakout rooms will be displayed on the top right side of the Zoom call. In the laptops, the breakout rooms will be displayed on the bottom side of the Zoom call. The breakout rooms will be assigned as 1 and 2. or you will be provided with the option to choose a particular breakout room which is assigned to you. The breakout room number are assigned to the presenters. I request everyone to move to your assigned rooms for the paper presentation. And also please check your names on the list in the breakout room. If you're having any trouble with the breakout rooms, you're free to ask. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I'm Harikrishnan, student of Manipal University.
Okay.
Is the session just after this breakup room, or do we have some break?
We are actually conducting in the continuous way. So now you have to join on the breakout room, which is provided on the, if you're using the mobile phones, it will be displayed on the top right side. Or if you're using laptop, it's displayed on the bottom side of the, which is near to share screen room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Excuse me, ma.
Yes, tell me.
Okay, I can't find where to join the breakout room. I'm making use of my mobile phone. It's not on my screen.
Okay, which room you want to go?
2.
You are assigned to room number 2. Hello, are you assigned to room number 2?
Hello?
Hello, ma'am.
Okay, I said for yesterday's presentation, I presented my paper in room number 2. So I think that's...
So if you want to choose your own room, you can also do that. Which room you want to move?
Okay, 2.
2. Okay, I'll put it in the room number 2.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How can I help you?
Yeah, my name is Minemorake. I have a presentation today on child marriage's effect. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure in which room am I being allocated, but I can see you still typing.
Okay, I'll just check through the schedule and I'll let you know. Okay, can you just give me 5 minutes?
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
It's fine. Thank you so much.
Hello, Winnie, are you there? Hello, Winnie, are you there?
My dear meaning.
And my dear friends who are presenting the purpose in this
Excuse me, ma'am. We will be presenting the slides.
Ma'am, sir, if you want to join rooms, the breakout room options is displayed on the bottom part if you're using laptop. If you're using mobile phones, you can see on the right side, top right side of the mobile phones. So if you tap on the phone, you can see four boxes which come together. That is a breakout room. If it is not showing you, please tell me that I can assign you to the room which you want to go.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please, can you assign me back to room 2? I lost connection, so I was disconnected from the meeting.
What's your name, ma'am?
Amara Okechukwu.
Okay, I'll send you to room number 2.
Thank you.
ആരെങ്കിലും എടുത്തതായിരിക്കടാ എന്റെ ബാഗിൽ വയ്ക്കേ ചാൻസ് കുറവാണ് ഇല്ല ഇവിടെ ആരൊക്കെ അവിടെ നോക്കിയോ Yes.